1960s were golden for soul music, but not every record struck gold. While Motown soared and Stax ignited, a few albums fell flat. James Brown stumbled with one overly ambitious soundtrack, and even the Supremes weren't immune to a rushed release. These are the 10 R&B albums from the 60s that just didn't hit the right note. Number 10, Try Me, by James Brown and his famous Flames, the album that couldn't match the single.
And your love.
Released in 1959 and reissued in 1960 by King Records, this was James Brown's second LP, a follow-up to his breakout success with the hit single Try Me. But while that track burned with gospel-fueled soul and raw vulnerability, the rest of the album barely flickered. The problem? It was cobbled together from leftover singles and B-sides with no flow, no cohesion. James was still developing his full band, full stage command, and the album feels more like a contract filler than a full artistic statement. I Want You So Bad had promise, but much of the material lacks the intensity he'd soon be famous for. Imagine a dusty jukebox in a corner bar spinning this one. You're waiting for the fire, but getting lukewarm heat.
And your love stopped my heart.
It's a rare case where too much James Brown isn't enough. Thankfully, the godfather of soul would more than make up for it just a few years later. And speaking of missteps, the next entry tried to blend Broadway with soul and paid the price. Number 9, A Bit of Liverpool by the Supremes, when Motown crossed the pond and tripped. Released in 1964 on Motown's budget label Motown International, this album was supposed to capitalize on Beatlemania. But instead of giving us Diana, Florence, and Mary in their soulful glory, A Bit of Liverpool handed listeners a batch of rushed, soulless British invasion covers. Now, the Supremes could sing the phone book and make it shimmer.
How do you do what you do to me? I wish I knew.
But here, they were saddled with tepid versions of songs like A Hard Day's Night and Can't Buy Me Love, without any of the signature Supreme sparkle. The arrangements are flat, the production uninspired, and the girls sound like they're reading off cue cards in the studio rather than pouring heart into the mic. This wasn't their idea. It was Berry Gordy trying to ride the Beatles' wave. But instead of creating a cultural crossover, it ended up feeling like Motown karaoke night gone wrong.
But won't you tell me how do you do it?
Fans wanted Where Did Our Love Go? Instead they got I Saw Her Standing There, with a side of disappointment. And if that was an identity crisis, wait till you hear what happens when soul singers try their hand at Hawaiian vibes. Number 8, Soul in the Night by Jack McDuff and Gene Ammons. Late night groove lost in translation. Released in 1966 on Prestige Records, Soul in the Night paired organ maestro brother Jack McDuff with saxophonist Gene Ammons, two jazz soul legends in their own right. On paper, it sounds like a dream, a smoky after-hours session with deep grooves and bluesy charm. In execution, it's more snooze than soul. What should have been a gritty, gut-bucket jam session instead feels like two giants walking in different directions. The chemistry's off, the energy's low, and even the firebrand McDuff can't lift the album from its sleepwalk. Ammons sounds restrained, like he's playing with one foot out to the studio door. Worse, the production is muddy, something you never want when trying to capture soul's fire. There's no standout track, just a lingering sense of missed opportunity. You can almost picture the dim lights and empty chairs at the back of the club. They'd both rebound on other records, but Soul in the Night remains a lesson. Not all soul jazz pairings catch fire. And if this sleepy session didn't move you, the next entry brings big-name drama with very little payoff. Number 7. The Genius Hits the Road by Ray Charles. Genius took a detour.
She has taken my complete heart.
In 1960, Ray Charles was riding high. He had just left Atlantic Records for the greener pastures and bigger budget of ABC Paramount. But The Genius Hits the Road, his first concept album under the new label, was less a triumphant journey and more a confused pit stop. The idea? An album of songs about American cities and states. The execution? Questionable.
Georgia, Georgia.
While Georgia on My Mind is an all-time masterpiece and rightly became a classic, the rest of the record feels like background music for a cross-country bus ride. Ray's unmatched voice is there, but the material isn't. Tracks like Alabama Bound and Blue Hawaii feel hokey, not heartfelt. The arrangements are heavy on strings and light on soul. It was marketed as a bold artistic pivot, but what we got was Ray Charles doing travelogue tunes with a cocktail lounge sheen.
I say just an old sweet song.
Fortunately, Ray rebounded in a big way with modern sounds in country and Western music just 2 years later. But first, we've got a soundtrack album from a soul icon that almost nobody talks about, and for good reason. Number 6, Grits and Soul by James Brown, the instrumental album that left us hungry. Released in 1964 on Smash Records, Grits and Soul was James Brown's attempt to branch out during a contract dispute with King Records. Denied the right to sing on new recordings due to label restrictions, the godfather of soul turned to instrumentals. The result? A funky concept that fizzled fast. Now, James Brown could make anything funky, but Grits and Soul feels like a skeleton of his sound. Without his commanding vocals or signature grunts driving the tracks, the album plays like a rehearsal reel, choppy, repetitive, and thin on melody. Tracks like Grits and Chicken Soup tease groove, but never boil over. Even the band sounds muted, restrained by the limitations of not being able to fully unleash. It's an album that tries to serve Southern heat, but ends up with lukewarm leftovers. It's a strange detour in James's legendary run, more of a contractual chess move than a creative triumph. If these soulful stumbles are bringing back memories, or maybe a few winces, give this video a like. It helps us keep the groove alive for every twist and turn of soul history. And stick around. We've still got 5 more misfires to revisit, including one from a Motown queen that might surprise you. Number 5, The Queen in Waiting by Aretha Franklin. Brilliance buried in blandness.
Up your jacket and make it for the door. Let it hit you in the back.
Before she found her throne at Atlantic, Aretha Franklin spent the early 60s signed to Columbia Records, and The Queen in Waiting is a prime example of why it just didn't work. Released in 1965 as a compilation of her earlier Columbia material, this album was meant to show Aretha's versatility. But what it really showcased was a label that didn't know what to do with a generational voice.
Don't get too comfortable, mama.
Packed with jazz standards, soft ballads, and orchestral arrangements, the album is technically pretty, but totally devoid of the soul fire Aretha was born to deliver. Tracks like Love Is the Only Thing and Only the Lonely feel more supper club than storefront church. The producers tried to fit her into a cocktail dress image when what she needed was a pulpit and a Hammond organ. It's not that the performances are bad. Aretha never sang badly.
Don't get too close to me, my boy. I'm not.
But this is the sound of a legend muzzled. Luckily, she'd unleashed that voice just 2 years later with I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You. And history would never be the same. Next up, an album so rushed, it sounds like it was recorded in one take, because it almost was. Number 4, The Miracles Doing Mickey's Monkey by The Miracles. Dance Craze Overdrive. Released in 1963 by Tamla Records, Doin' Mickey's Monkey was Motown's attempt to cash in on the dance craze sweeping the charts. Mickey's Monkey, the single, was a hit. Catchy, wild, and packed with party energy. But the full album? It felt more like a cash grab than a celebration. The record leans heavy on dance-themed fillers. Do the Monkey, the Groovy Thing, and the Jerk.
Something to see.
Most of it sounds like it was rushed out in a single weekend. Smokey Robinson's lyrical finesse is nowhere to be found, and the group's signature harmonies are buried under recycled grooves and repetitive hooks. There's little cohesion, no emotional depth, just track after track telling you to submit, get on the floor, but not giving you much reason to stay there. You can almost hear the Motown assembly line at work, fast, functional, forgettable. The Miracles would bounce back strong, of course, but this record reminds us that even icons stumble when marketing outruns music. Next, we head to Chicago for an album that sounds less like sweet soul and more like soul on autopilot. Number 3, Right on Time by The Impressions, When Smooth Turns Stale.
Wouldn't have me when I was young.
Released in 1969 on Kurt Home Records, Right on Time was supposed to signal a new chapter for The Impressions. Curtis Mayfield was still at the helm, but the group was beginning to strain under the pressure of staying relevant in a rapidly shifting soul landscape. Unfortunately, the album just doesn't deliver the goods. Gone is the spark of earlier records like People Get Ready or Keep On Pushing.
Do to you like the old folks say there were.
Instead, Right on Time offers a collection of lukewarm tracks that drift more than they groove. The arrangements feel rushed, the lyrics oddly generic, and Curtis, usually such a sharp pen, is uncharacteristically vague throughout. Songs like This Is My Country and Love's Happening try to ride the wave of social awareness, but without the conviction that defined Mayfield's best work. It's as if the album was chasing the sound of the moment rather than defining it.
I think of your love and what.
In short, a filler album from a group that was once a fire starter. They'd recover, but this one remains a footnote, not a milestone. And speaking of misfires, the runner-up on our list is a star-studded mess that somehow made too much of a good thing. Number 2, We Remember Sam Cooke by The Supremes. Heartfelt tribute, hollow delivery. Released in 1965, just a year after Sam Cooke's tragic death, We Remember Sam Cooke was Motown's way of honoring the soul pioneer. The Supremes, still glowing from their early chart-topping success, were tasked with delivering the tribute. But what should have been powerful felt more like a rushed studio assignment.
Now I find myself wanting to
The intention was noble, but the execution missed the mark. The album's arrangements are oddly sterile, and Diana Ross's usually compelling vocals feel overly restrained. Tracks like A Change Is Gonna Come and You Send Me lack the emotional gravity of Sam's originals. Instead of interpreting, they mimic, and the results come off more like an impersonation than a eulogy. You can sense the pressure. Pay homage to a legend, but stay polished and pop-friendly for the Motown market. The result? a tribute that sounds afraid to feel too deeply. The Supremes were more than capable of emotional depth, but here, the soul is smoothed out and sanitized. But trust me, nothing will prepare you for number one. A record so off-key, it still has fans scratching their heads today. Number one, The Wondrous World of Sonny and Cher. Pop soul confusion at its peak. Released in 1966 under Atco Records, The Wondrous World of Sonny and Cher is technically a pop album, but it was marketed hard to the R&B and soul crowd, thanks to the duo's Motown light image and doo-wop influences. The problem? This record had no idea what it wanted to be, and ended up being none of the above. From the corny faux gospel ballads to the awkward covers of standards like Summertime, this album tries to blend soul sensibilities with Sonny's folk leanings and Cher's booming alto. The result is a chaotic mix of genres that never lands. There's even a cover of Bring It On Home to Me that borders on sacrilege, stripped of Sam Cooke's aching humanity and layered with syrupy strings. It's a confused time capsule, part novelty act, part soul tourism. And while Cher would eventually find her true vocal power, this album feels like she's trapped in someone else's vision. Even die-hard fans often leave this one off the turntable. From Motown misfires to misguided tributes, these albums prove that even legends take a wrong turn now and then. Thanks for joining us on this soulful detour. We hope it made you smile, maybe even cringe a little, but always with love for the genre that shaped a generation. Subscribe to keep the groove alive and never miss our next stroll. And if you're ready for redemption, click the next video on screen, the 7 hidden stories behind R&B's greatest hits of the 1970s. Let's go from off-key to classic and keep the rhythm rolling.